With the iPhone 15 lineup coming out next month and it being near a year since I got my 14 Pro Max, I wanted to update you guys on 5 things that really surprised me about this phone using it since last September, along with 3 downsides that I was not expecting. Now let's jump right into it, and the first thing I want to talk about is the dynamic island, which was brand new for the 14 Pro phones. Now in my first review of this phone, I said that I wasn't really using it very much. Now sure, it's nice that we don't have that ugly notch that is protruding, but it also cuts out more of the video if you like to watch in full screen, so it's kind of a toss-up, and I was hoping that more applications would start to support it. Well, in the last almost year now, I absolutely love this thing. One of my most common uses is just tapping it when I'm listening to music or podcasts, which is all the time, to get controls or have a quick shortcut into the app. And that is just really nice. And along with that, I often use timers, and to see that countdown being built right in is really handy. The same thing with screen recording, having that little red dot that pops up telling me that I'm recording, that is really nice. And in general, I would say that it would be really hard for me to go back to not having a dynamic island. Now, unfortunately, not a ton of apps have come out to support them, at least major ones. For example, Google Maps still does not use that. And because of that, I'm actually using Apple Maps now fairly often just so I could see that turn-by-turn notification. Now, the second thing I absolutely love is the always on display. I loved it in my first review, and I even showed you guys how to go in and create a custom mode where it has a dark background so it's not as bright and it saves battery life. But over the last, I don't know, half a year, I stopped using it. I think Apple has made some optimizations as far as the battery life, and I just like how it looks, where the screen looks like it's pretty much on, just in a dimmed mode. And I love being able to just look over, glance at my notifications, what is happening, if something is playing there in the background, to have quick controls. This is another thing that I could not go back to not having it. I think Apple did an excellent job with this and has been one of the biggest reasons to upgrade. As for number 3, this is something that a lot of reviewers don't talk about, and that is the reception, cellular performance, and speed. Now, I've done many videos testing different generations of phones, and the really sweet thing about the 14 Pro Max is that I have fairly good reception in my basement, whereas many of my friends that have even a 13 Pro Max, well, they really don't get a signal, and that sucks. They have to use like Wi-Fi calling, and that is a major benefit because of the better modems that are in here, maybe a little bit more power optimization, not only in my basement, but even in other areas, more rural areas, the signal is actually there when in the past it wasn't. So that is something that you need to consider if you're thinking about upgrading. Maybe you want to wait another year. If you have areas where you have bad reception, upgrading is going to make that better, or you might even get a signal when you didn't have one in the past. Now, number 4 is the removal of the SIM slot. I hated this when it came out. I talked about the issues I had, family members that had issues getting self-service on their new phone because they can't just pop a SIM card in there, drop call issues, but now it has been working flawlessly. Now, my wife's 14 Pro Max had some issues. She did drop, but we had to get it replaced. So I had to transfer the eSIM from her phone to a temporary one and then back and forth. And it was extremely quick, super easy and simple. And I did not miss having that SIM card slot. It was basically just as fast as having to, remove it, swap it, but I didn't have to really do anything, just place 2 phones together. So I think the removal of the SIM card is a non-issue anymore. And that is one thing that really surprised me. And as for number 5, part of this really blew my mind, and that is the 48 megapixel camera sensor. Now, when Apple announced this, they showed it off. They made a huge deal about it. They showed off the 2x crop mode, saying it was basically lossless, and I was a big skeptic. But in our hands-on comparisons, we showed how Apple's 48 megapixel destroys Samsung's 108 and even their brand new over 200 megapixel sensor. Now, one issue I had was the fact that you have to record in Apple RAW, and then the file size is massive, and I showed you guys how you can have a shortcut that will make it into HEIFs or HEICs, giving you the full resolution, but at the same time making the file sizes really small. And while some reviewers have said that they almost never take photos in that mode, I am doing it way more often than I expected. So much so that if we're taking family photos, I'm the one that's taking it with my phone and then sending that image to everybody else because it looks so amazingly good. Now with that 2x crop mode, I'm using that all the time. I love that focal length more so than the 3x lens, and the quality is surprisingly good, leading me into video. I love using that 2x in video mode because it gives you more compression. It just looks really, really nice. And with that, this year, for the first time ever, I'm using my phone for even YouTube videos that we make quite often. I'm even mixing in shots with my professional Sony cameras, and as long as the lighting is good, they match really well. I'm also using the 4K cinematic mode that was enabled this year in some shots, but in a lot of shots, because of the large 48 megapixel sensor, I don't have to because you have natural blur that cannot get messed up due to the algorithm not functioning properly. So this new camera update has been the biggest camera update, in my opinion, ever. And if you want to get better photo quality, I would highly recommend this, or of course the upcoming iPhones that also are gonna have 48 megapixel. And now we gotta talk about some of the issues. And the first one I wanna cover is battery degradation. Now, a few months ago, I made a video giving you guys tips on how to make your iPhone's battery last a long time. And at that time, my iPhone was at 99% capacity. Now, I am at 91. It fell off a cliff. And Angelica's phone, that she has a 14 Pro, hers was at 100. Now she is at 92. And with that, Aaron from Zolotech just posted on Twitter that he's at 90%. And usually at this time of year, he would be at 100. And that his 13 Pro Max, which he used for a full year as his daily phone, and then the last year he used it for YouTube videos, that's at 98. And with that, as far as the battery life, it has been getting worse, just noticing it day to day. Now, I don't know if that's because of the always on display. Maybe it's because of the new 2000 nit super high brightness screen that will heat up quite a bit, but this is definitely a disappointment. And I also feel like maybe Apple engineers are doing something weird where at first it stays close to that 100, but now that we're close to the new phones coming out, now it's showing its true capacity. It's dropping like a rock to give you another incentive to upgrade. You guys let me know your thoughts down below, but this definitely sucks and something I was not expecting. Now, for downside number 2, that has to be overheating. We talk about this every year and it has gotten better. And when I first got the 14 Pro Max, we were still in really hot temperatures here. And even though we did have some dimming, it was way better than before. But recently, my screen dimming has gotten way worse. And I know other people have mentioned this as well. It is not only dimming more often, but it's getting even more dim, where the screen gets a lot dimmer compared to before. And that 2000 nit ultra high brightness, which is amazing when it does work, well, it is not working that well because it's dropping. And I don't know if this also is like the thermal layer they have not being as effective, but I want Apple to do something better, kind of like what Samsung has. Put more focus on thermals, especially now that we have so much performance and such high brightness screens. And as for the third downside that I was not expecting, that has to be the other cameras, specifically the selfie camera. Now, the 14 lineup got brand new 12 megapixel sensors that are larger. They have a different pixel density layout. It's now an f1.5 lens, and some websites said that this is the biggest selfie camera update ever. But over the last year, I've just been getting more and more disappointed in the images that I'm getting. They just don't look good. And Android phones have way better selfie cameras that are destroying them. I want Apple to put in either a 32 megapixel or maybe a 48 if they want them to match, to really give us a nice boost in just the quality and detail of those photos, because other brands are just so much better. You guys let me know your thoughts. Have you been happy with them, or does Apple need to step this up? So there you guys go. Overall, I've been very happy with this phone, but some of those things are annoying and it sucks to see it get worse as time goes on. Go ahead and click one of those videos over there to check them out. Click the circle above to subscribe. This has been Max, and I will see you in the next video.